Go to logi.gg/Datto and use code Datto10 to save money on your next Logitech purchase.
I've put off talking about Destiny Rising for a while now because I legit didn't really know what to say about the game. I've dumped about 10-12 hours into the closed alpha. I've leveled some characters. I've played almost all of them. I did a fair amount of the activities on offer, and I think ultimately all I have to say about Destiny Rising is, yep, that's Destiny all right, but like not exactly in a bad way. I'd like to preface this video by saying that this video is not sponsored by anyone involved with the game, although I did receive an alpha code from a NetEase community manager so that, you know, I could actually play the thing. Also, no, I don't know when the game is officially launching. Destiny Rising is not developed by Bungie. It's developed by NetEase with a license from Bungie to use Destiny, with Bungie providing guidance along the way to make sure that the IP is used in an appropriate way, on top of what I think is a lot of other stuff that we'll get into. It is a gacha game, though, which you might be familiar with, like, you know, games like Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, Zenless Zone Zero, I think is one that just came out recently, that kind of deal. They rely on the gachapon style game mechanic, where basically they just try to entice you into spending real money on in-game loot boxes that can be filled with anything ranging from a low-level currency to a super high-level character. I have never played a gacha game before, so you'll have to excuse me if you play these games and I get some terminology wrong, or if I'm speaking to you like you have no idea what a gacha game is, because I really didn't, other than, you know, they want your money. The closed alpha for Destiny Rising did not require any kind of purchases in order to play, though. Everything is going to be wiped after the alpha is over, so there's no point in spending money anyway. I don't even know if you were allowed to spend money, but we'll talk money and gacha at the end of the video. The intro to Destiny Rising is essentially what the New Light experience should be in Destiny 2. You slowly get introduced to the world, the characters, the story, and the gameplay systems within. Guardian Ranks kinda does this very, very loosely, not nearly as well as Rising though. Every chapter or chapter segment gave me 2 or 3 things to learn about the game, and this process continued until I opened up the entire game. This tutorial lasts long enough per chapter that I had enough time to get acclimated to the new things and actually learn what they are, but was short enough to not outstay its welcome outside of some reputation grinds in the one patrol area available in the alpha. Now, obviously with Rising being a brand new game, it makes sense that their onboarding process is significantly more robust than a game that's been out since 2017. But I still wanted to give credit for getting people situated in a pretty easy to understand way. This tutorial does last a pretty long time though. Again, I spent 10 to 12 hours playing the game and I was still in this, for lack of a better term, New Light experience for that whole time. In terms of story content, the game takes place in an alternative timeline universe thing compared to the main Destiny game. It's much earlier on in Destiny's history, kind of like that Iron Lord era. The last city isn't even built yet. You have some semblance of a story going on in the New Light stuff. You're trying to reestablish communications in one of the patrol destinations, taking back control from the Fallen, who are very fresh off of the Traveler, abandoning them in Reese. I'm not really going to be diving too deep into the story elements here, though, as what I just told you took up a fair amount of my playtime in the tutorial, and I was able to sum it up in, one sentence. It is coherent. I didn't think it was, awful or anything, but I wasn't exactly blown away, although who is ever blown away at the tutorial, you know? The voice acting for the characters who weren't AI placeholders were not too bad, especially one character in particular in the patrol area named Ayuela. I thought she was very well voice acted. Xur has their original voice actor from the main game as well in Destiny Rising, which I thought was cool. These story missions were all pretty similarly paced like the ones in the main game, but I do want to point out one in particular for being pretty cool. There's a mission where Radagast, yes, that one, escorts you and fights with you, and at the end of the mission, he is driving a pike or a sparrow, I think it's a pike, while you hang off the back fighting off a boss enemy and like other dregs on pikes and stuff. And I just thought that was kind of cool. That's not an experience that I think we've really had in Destiny in the past. I know there's been a lot of feedback about us wanting to see NPCs in the wild and fighting with us and all that kind of stuff. And here's a mission in Destiny Rising where that exactly is happening. Now, are all story missions like this? No. This was one of the highlights, but I just wanted to give an example of something kind of neat that Destiny Rising was able to do for one of their campaign missions. The game is so aggressively Destiny that I struggle to talk about it to a Destiny audience because these aren't going to be terribly new concepts to anyone who has played the game before. Everything from the sound effects to the guns to the animations, the visuals, the music is pretty accurate in terms of the vibes. This, that, this. It's all so familiar and similar that it almost feels like a port more than a brand new game, even though it is a brand new game. There was a lot of care that was put into making the experience of this game still feel very Destiny. Patrol Zone, yep, closed alpha, had a patrol zone. It has patrol missions, it has region chests, it has public events, it has other hidden objectives to complete, like shoot the targets or follow the ghost around to a thing. Jiangxi Metro was the name of it. NetEase is a Chinese company, by the way. And this is your snowy Destiny destination, Europa vibes to it. You know, picture a snow area in Destiny. This is pretty close to it, but it was still its own place with its own lore and objectives and all of that. Haven is the main hub. Felt very similar to the tower, even though it's not the tower. It has all the vendors you would expect, the NPC dialogue, everything. You could tell me that this was going to be the next tower or the next social space in Destiny 2. I would believe you. Strikes, there were 2 in the alpha, and these were, by all Destiny standards, a couple of strikes. The pacing was the same. You have familiar feeling platforming sections, followed by a combat section, final bosses that fit the style and the gameplay of a strike boss. It's like 1-to-1. The only difference that I noticed was that strikes in Destiny Rising are only about 5 to 8 minutes compared to the 10 to 20 minute experience you can have in Destiny. And this is obviously because it's a mobile game where these things need to be shorter because you don't always have the ability to play for that long in a row. There is matchmaking for this and other activities, but the game will throw you into activities with bots if it can't find people quickly for you. And again, that's because it's a mobile game. You can't be sitting in matchmaking for 5 minutes on your phone, but it is also a pretty nice convenience. They do have some new activities, though. They have a PvE-only Gambit style thing in Morgren's Prey. Morgren is a literal Ahamkara, by the way. They have a roguelike mode in Realm of the Nine. They have a raid-like activity in the Gauntlet. They have an 18-player, 6 teams of 3 hyper-insane Gambit mode. They have Sparrow Racing, which I know isn't new, but you get it. They have their own card game in Shadow Shaper Duels. They have player housing for your clan. So while yes, there are a lot of the basics of Destiny in Destiny Rising, NetEase also took some creative liberties of their own. Because Rising does not need to work exactly like Destiny does, this gives them some more freedom to experiment and play around with some different concepts. I'm not going to pretend that a roguelike mode is a revolutionary idea, but I don't hate it, I'll tell you that much. What else? You got bounties, you got dailies, you got weekly rewards and lockouts for all the different activities, you got triumphs, you got seals. It's all there. What I also found interesting is how they lay out their activities in the adventure menu. It feels very similar to what Bungie will be attempting to do in 2025 with their Apollo launch, where they want players to be able to just look at a menu, see what activity is giving what rewards, and just be able to hop in right away, just like that. Destiny Rising's adventure menu is laid out sort of like that. Haven Ops, that's giving you weapons. Realm of the Nine, that's artifact stuff. Morgren's Prey, that's relic stuff. You click the activity, it tells you what kind of stuff you can get, and you're off to the races. Now, Destiny is not exactly the same as Destiny Rising when it comes to their progression systems, so I don't know about replicating this one-to-one where a certain activity gives a certain thing, but it does make things very clear as to what to expect from completing an activity. Reward structures are also quite similar. You got your weekly lockouts, but then you have pinnacle rewards. Pinnacle rewards work a little differently though. You get a certain amount of energy per day, usually enough to get you a few chests at the end of activities, and then you need to wait for it to replenish. It carries over day to day though, so you don't need to worry about missing a day of loot collection, and this goes up to a cap. I think you get like 360 energy. You can also earn extra pinnacle energy outside of this system, although I think I found 0 of it in the introductory section of the game. Depending on the lens you want to use to look at this, it could be good, could be bad. Good, you can only progress so much per day, so you don't have to worry about non-stop pinnacle grinding. Bad, some people want to do that, and once you hit a limit, you might need to cough up some cash in order to continue. So what does progression even look like? Well, pretty much everything needs its own currency in order to level that particular thing. Your character level, you need XP crystals. Your relic, you need relic shards. Your skill tree, you need light crystals. Your weapons, you need weapon salvage. All of these, you need their own currencies. Infusion is a mechanism to increase a character's level cap. Yep, that needs a material, and it needs a different one of a higher rarity as you increase your level. You earn all of these currencies by doing stuff in the game. Every item tells you exactly where you can find it. So if you need weapons, you need weapon parts, you're going to hit up Haven Ops. It's very deterministic, but I could see the idea of grinding the same playlist over and over for a very specific material as getting a little monotonous. In the alpha, these resources were relatively plentiful, so I didn't really experience a big holdup, at least in the early stages of the alpha. In the full release, I suspect things will be much slower, and that the norm will not be that you can level up every single character and every single gun and every this and every that in the game unless you pay a lot of money or you play for a lot of hours. We'll find out when it actually launches. I liken this system of materials to the original vision of weapon crafting, or basically any system that Bungie has introduced that had multiple forms of currencies in order to participate. Bungie introduces a thing, people complain that there's too much involved to do the thing, Bungie obliterates it down to its simplest form. However, when it comes to Destiny Rising, I wouldn't expect NetEase to give in and say something like, okay, in the next update, we're combining all of these currencies into one currency that you can use to level everything. I don't get the vibe that NetEase is going to be as approachable as Bungie is, although I would love to be proven wrong there. So what are the characters like? What's his gameplay like? Well, they feel like as if you took part of a subclass or a fragment or an exotic and you turned that one thing into a character. At least some of the characters anyway. The first character you play as, Wolf, is what I would call a hunter with a solar sword. They got a long range attack, they got a short range attack, and their super is a sword that you can use that hits pretty hard for a few swings. There isn't Warlock and Hunter and Titan, every character is its own thing. But you can certainly tell the vibe, you know what I mean, of each character. And they all have jumps similar to the classes of Warlock, Hunter, Titan, right? Wolf's jump, it's a double jump. They're a hunter. Then you have Kaber, who is basically the Vault of Glass Relic Shield and Titan's Ramparts in an arc damage package with a Titan-style jump. You got Ikora, she's a Void Warlock with a Warlock-style jump with multiple Void Warlock-type attacks and a Nova Bomb. How about Tan 2, a split-personality character who is literally a Well of Radiance Warlock and can flip-flop between a healing and support version of the class to a more offensive-oriented version of the class. Each character can only use a specific weapon type though, like Tan 2, Scouts, and Snipers only. Wolf, autos, and GLs only. So if a character has an ability kit that you like, but you don't like playing with scout rifles, you might be out of luck there. But there's a pretty fun element of trying out a new character, seeing their kit, experimenting, and then knowing that more characters are coming out in the future. I'm interested in seeing what character design looks like after maybe they run out of stuff that regular Destiny has to offer, although they do already have some unique stuff like that chick with the the Void Scythe. it hasn't felt like any of the characters in particular are necessary to complete content, but as of writing this, I'm not really at the level where that would matter just yet. Also, because Destiny Rising is not Destiny, and is not beholden to the limitations of Destiny, they probably have a bit more room to experiment with ideas. It's a lot easier to come up with a character that only has a super and 2 abilities versus an entire subclass. How about, like, the controls, like actually playing the game? Well, there's no PC port of the game as of now, and we haven't gotten a ton of information on whether or not there will be one at launch. I have an Android, so I emulated the game on BlueStacks so that I could easily broadcast gameplay to my stream for the one day that I streamed it. I played on controller, and the experience was fine. You're playing on a controller. That's it. I haven't played on a controller for Destiny in a very long time, so if you're wondering why it looks like I have the control of a toddler in my gameplay, that is why. I did end up switching back and forth between the touch controls and the controller because touching menu options is a lot easier than using a controller. In terms of exclusively playing on touch controls, I knew within about 2 minutes that if I could play on a controller versus playing on touch controls, I would rather play on a controller. Maybe people who are used to touch controls can deal with it, and there are some touch control specific things to make your life a little bit easier, like auto fire, but this is not a skill that I'm necessarily looking to develop at this point in my life. Then we got the gacha experience. This game does a lot to hit you with little micro bursts of rewards every so often. A reward for completing a bounty, doing a triumph, doing this, doing that. There's always some kind of a reward to keep that dopamine train rolling. The main way you're going to pull new characters is by opening up boxes, loot crates, booster packs, whatever you want to call them. These can be earned through gameplay, but obviously they want you to buy them so that you can rip to your heart's content. Getting a high tier character is guaranteed after 60 of these boxes, but you have a very low chance of getting one at any point. And by low chance, I mean like 1 to 2% chance. It's not very high. Every 10 pulls, you should expect to see a legendary character. So like the 4-star version, like the super high tiers, like 5, whatever it is. And a bunch of materials will also be headed your way. And the game tells you this with this like little grid of items here. The nice thing about pulling dupes, which you will be doing, is that you can use the item that you get from a duplicate character to increase that character's strength, although I think you can only do this so many times. The game also has a battle pass, both a free and a premium track, in addition to some other things that you can buy, like a subscription, which gives you more rewards for logging in and or more materials from doing things. They got this departure exclusive thing, whatever the hell this is. They got their own version of the Eververse store full of cosmetic items. Bright Dust does exist in this game as well and can be used to purchase certain cosmetics, but then everything else is silver. That's the end of the segment. I realize the segment's very brief, but I think gacha games have enough of a reputation that you probably already know what's in store for you in a gacha game. Lots and lots of ways to spend money. This is how these games make content available free to people because there are a lot of people out there spending crazy money on these games, trying to max out their characters, or they're this or they're that or whatever. At the end of the day, Destiny Rising is so incredibly similar and familiar to Destiny that I don't know how much I can recommend it to a jaded Destiny player, and yet has enough stuff happening on its own that feels new and fresh that it could maybe feel refreshing to a jaded Destiny player, depending on the kind of player you are and how jaded you are. I know Destiny-minded folk who haven't been able to stop playing. I know Destiny-minded folk who could not care less about playing. Everything about this game seems like Reddit's worst nightmare. There will be intense grinding, there will be microtransactions and loot crates galore, and NetEase will try to extract as much money as they can out of you. However, it's not like what I played was bad or anything. It was Destiny. I just already have a lot of that in my life. That being said, I was surprised at how good and or complete of an experience the game has felt thus far, at least, in the closed alpha. They really nailed the feeling of Destiny in almost every sense of the phrase. And outside of the world of monetization, I think NetEase has done a pretty good job of taking the Destiny license and dropping it on mobile with a mix of familiar and new takes on things. But until the game actually comes out and we see how aggressive the monetization practices are and how brutal the grind actually will be, I hesitate to say much more than that. Not to mention that this game is not necessarily being developed for Destiny enjoyers. It's not a way for Bungie to try to get Destiny players to play more Destiny. It's a way for the Destiny franchise to be introduced to a new audience. Remember, mobile games, while somewhat popular here in North America, Europe, feel like they pale in comparison to that of Asia when it comes to their popularity. Mobile games are everything on that side of the world. That's why this game is being made, to capture that audience. If you were looking at all of this wondering why you would play Destiny Rising over Destiny, that's not an incorrect response at all, because you are likely not the target audience. Would I rather play Destiny 2 or Destiny Rising? I think I'd rather be on Destiny 2. But Rising isn't supposed to be replacing Destiny 2 or anything like that. And there are plenty of novel things on Destiny Rising that Destiny 2 doesn't have. And I'm sure I'll have a follow-up video of like what I would like to see from Destiny Rising put into Destiny 2 or like whatever. I've seen a wide range of feedback from players from I'm never going to touch this to I'm dropping Destiny 2 for this. The closed alpha impressed me. If we just isolate the gameplay portion, the Destiny portion, as someone who has never played a gacha game or really even mobile games at all, it impressed me. It doesn't feel hastily thrown together. It doesn't feel low effort. It doesn't feel disrespectful of the franchise. The spirit of Destiny is very much intact in this experience. But the gacha aspect also exists, and that's going to be a deal breaker for a lot of people. I would like to try the game again when it fully launches to see how brutal the grind is or how the gacha stuff gets. And again, no plans at the moment to cover the game like I covered Destiny 2, but if that does change for whatever reason, I would launch a separate channel specifically for Destiny Rising, so don't worry about me mixing both games into one channel. Let me know how you felt about the alpha. I'm very interested in what people have to say. Very, very interested. So give me your feedback, genuinely. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you next time.